It's our pleasure to welcome Jay Drew back to the Wise Guys. Jay, how's it going, brother? Big travel week for you, and thanks for waiting in the chat. We had Steve Cleveland in here and taking us through basketball, which was really, really fun. And then Andy Rosenberg just walks in the house, one of the greatest sports producers of all time, just walks in to the show tonight. So we appreciate you waiting for just a few minutes on the line with us. So, hey, let's start with this. What do you think about BYU's first-round matchup with VCU?
It's not optimal. Maybe we all have the idea of what Duquesne did last year. This is almost a carbon copy of that with the A-10 champ, a team that's really got hot at the end of the season. I think they've won, 18 of their last 20. And they're a really good defensive team, which some play well against BYU, like Houston, obviously. Other defensive teams, Iowa State, not so much. So I think it could have been a worse draw for BYU. But as I wrote in my, piece last night, I think VCU is underseeded a little bit. If you look at where they are on the S curve, I think they probably deserved a 9 or an 8, and they got an 11. So I think BYU was treated pretty fairly. I think everyone thought maybe a 5 or a 6, and it ended up on the 6. So, but I think BYU can take care of business. I don't think this is an insurmountable game, but there probably are easier first-round opponents for people.
Do you think this team, with all of the changes that have come with this team this year, do you think they are better equipped to handle something like what happened last year with Duquesne?
Absolutely. I think 100%. I think they're stronger mentally. I think Kevin Young has instilled that in them. They're tougher. They're better equipped to overcome adversity. They're better with Kebaketa inside. They're better defensively if he can stay out of foul trouble. They're more versatile. They got many, many ways to beat you. And they're deeper. They can go, as it's been well documented, 10, 11 guys deep, depending on if Cannon Catchings comes back. So, yeah, in almost every way, I know their seeding is the same, but I think in almost every way they're a better team. And they're, as Kevin Young has said several times, they're more battle tested. They know they can beat these really great teams because they've done it. So, yeah, I have much higher hopes for them this year than I did last year. I would put it that way.
Speaking of battle tested, they had quite a battle with Houston second time around, and Houston's guards just give BYU problems. Does that loss linger for BYU, or does the team reflect Kevin Young, where it's just, hey, just another learning opportunity, and can they turn the page? What's your thought? Does that loss hurt them, or can they move on and learn from that?
I think they can move on and learn. And, the unique thing about the Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament is reporters are able to go into the locker rooms. And I went in after that loss, and you didn't see a lot of guys moping, a lot of hung heads. Of course, it was quiet. Nobody was celebrating. But it seemed like a quiet resolve that this wasn't going to nick their confidence. And I actually asked Dallin Hall about that, and he went on for quite some time about, Houston and BYU is just not a good matchup for BYU because of the things we've already mentioned. And so I didn't see any sort of anybody like gloom and doom and this is going to be the end of the season. I thought there was a kind of a strong resolve to just put it in the rearview mirror and move on and play a team that is not as familiar with them. That's one thing, you get in these conference tournaments and you've already played these teams before and they know what you do. And Houston obviously knows what BYU does, and it's very, very well coached. That's the thing about Houston. They don't make very many mistakes at all. And so, yeah, add that all up, and I think BYU just moves on just fine from it.
There were so many things, Jay, going into this year that were unknowns, whether it's the coaching staff and whether or not guys were going to come back that were on last year's team, and then you bring in all these high caliber NBA potential type players. There were just so many moving parts that we weren't sure how it was all going to fit together. And then it's turned out there's been so many pleasant surprises all year long. What's been maybe your biggest surprise on a positive side about BYU that stood out to you this year?
Yeah, there's so many, but, I think the emergence of two really good on-ball defenders, Mawit Mag, we knew he came with the reputation of being that. Trey Stewart is also kind of evolved. And then Mawit Mag has also really improved his offensive game as the season's gone on. The first few 3-pointers that he took, you were thinking, oh man, why is he shooting? And now you're thinking, just like you're thinking when Trevin Nell or Dallin Hall or Richie Saunders takes them, it's going to go in. We've just been accustomed to that. So I would say those are kind of two elements that they developed as the season went on that got them to where they are right now is those two players becoming, big pieces of the puzzle.
BYU beat writer for the Deseret News, Jay Drew, is on the Wise Guys with us, presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. So if BYU is going to go on, it was funny because we were talking to Coach Cleveland and somebody in the chat said, can we just focus on VCU? We shouldn't be talking about Wisconsin. And we all agreed that, hey, we're in the media. We can talk about like Sweet 16, the Elite 8. We can talk about whatever we want, right? So, because it doesn't jinx us or the team if we talk about it. So if they get out of this first round and make a tournament run, what are the three things you think they need to do? Like, just give us like three key points. You've watched them all year very closely. Three things that you need to see out of them if they're going to win at least 2 games in this tournament. What do they have to do?
Number one is they got to rebound. They got to rebound. There were stretches when they were really good at both offensive and defensive rebounds, but so I think that's a big key. I think the other one's obvious. They've got to shoot a decent percentage from 3-point line. They've got to take advantage of some of the strengths of their team and how well they can shoot it. And then another thing I just think is I know they're deep, so this might be counterintuitive, but I just think they got to foul less. They've got to not let teams go to the line. If you look at some of their losses they've had, Cincinnati and beyond that, and even Houston the other night, is they tend to foul too much. Now I don't know if that's if the free throw disparity is lopsided, but whenever BYU is in the same ballpark as the other team as far as free throws go, it's a good night for them. So, and I should add that their free throw shooting was phenomenal at the tournament. I think they were 10 for 10 against Houston. I think they only missed 4 or 5 out of over 20 against Iowa State. So that was kind of a little bit of a sticking point earlier in the year, and I think they've got that solved. And I think that's a good thing because a lot of these games come down to free throw shooting contests.
The best part of this question is there's a lot of ways you can go with this. There's a lot of answers that aren't wrong. BYU's had a lot of impressive wins this year. What's been the most impressive win in your opinion?
That's between at Iowa State and at Arizona. I was there for the Arizona game. I would just have to say that one.
The Arizona one?
Yeah, Arizona one. They're just like Arizona's got superstars, Caleb Love. Arizona had beat BYU at the Marriott Center. So to go down there and to beat the Wildcats at their own game was pretty impressive. That scene at McHale, I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but that was a wild scene. It was, that place was rocking, and BYU just pretty much answered every scoring surge that Arizona had. BYU just answered it. To me, that was probably the most impressive win.
Were you down there, Jay, when Jimmer just went off in that building? Were you down there?
I was. That was one of the first road trips
goodness.
I've been on.
That had to be amazing that night.
That was, and one of my takeaways from that game was Lute Olson. He wasn't the coach at the time, the former Arizona coach. Sean Miller was the head coach, but when Jimmer was taken out at the end, he had scored 49 points, and BYU was ahead by 25, 30 points. Lute Olson stood up and gave him a standing ovation, and then all the other fans kind of joined Lute Olson. That was a really classy move. Mm-hmm. I just remember that sticking in my mind as one of my memories from that game.
That's cool. You've been to 2 incredible games because this last game there was pretty special, and that game is maybe the most special game for a BYU team down in that building. That's pretty cool that you were part of both of it. So when you consider what this team's done this year and that A.J. DeBan says what he'll bring next season, including maybe a few players from the portal, but there's some of these veteran guys. People forget there's a bunch of juniors on this team that are planning to come back. So there's a good nucleus to add to what they're bringing. What's your crystal ball for the future of BYU? What do they look like next year and beyond?
Yeah, a lot depends on, which guys are going to come back. And number one is, of course, Richie Saunders and where's he's at. He's got eligibility left. Dallin Hall's got eligibility left. Kebaketa. I think those are three key pieces that they could really use coming back. Everything I hear is that Jaeger is probably gone, but it's not a done deal yet. That there might be, it sounds like he really, really loves Provo and playing for BYU and being kind of part of the whole campus life and all that. So, but I think those are the keys. Obviously, they're going to miss Foose. Foose is kind of, in my opinion, a really underrated player. I think he's one of their best players, and doesn't maybe get the the accolades like Richie Saunders gets. But they're obviously going to miss that. They're two of their better defenders, Trey Stewart and Mawit Mag. But add the guys if they can retain the guys that we just talked about, and then AJ DeBonsa. I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't be another top 15, top 10 team next year.
How fun is that?
Speaking of Jaeger, in this first game, and obviously, we're hoping it's a long run in the tournament, but as it pertains to this first game, what does BYU need out of Jaeger against VCU?
Number one, he's got to take care of the ball a little bit better. He's got to cut down on some of those careless turnovers, careless passes. Maybe he's trying to do too much, be too fancy, but I think he's just got to make more winning plays. And sometimes he's done that. I mean, in those games that we talked about that he won, he was fantastic. Other times you kind of wonder, wow, where did that pass come from, sort of thing. So I just think he needs to be solid. He just to not play outside of himself, do what he does well, and for the most part, just take care of the ball. Some of those turnovers, they're like pick sixes in football. If you give a team a fast break bucket going down the other end, that's just giving away points, and they got to work on that. They got to stop that, and I think if they do that, they'll be in pretty good shape.
We call them terminal turnovers. When you turn it over and it's a run out on the other end. So, so you just got back when Saturday or Sunday from the Big 12 tournament, right?
Yeah, I came back Saturday. I had changed my flight up a little bit. And came home.
Got home. When do you head out to Denver?
Yeah, I'm heading out tomorrow night to Denver. Got to be there. Pretty much, they have the press conferences and the open practices Wednesday midday. So, yeah, I'm going to head out to Denver Tuesday night, and I was kind of hoping for any of the other sites, just personally, because I've been to Denver. I've never been to Lexington.
Yeah, but at least in Denver, you have because you've been there multiple times in the old Mountain West days. So, is there like people watching that maybe going to term? Is there a Big 12 or not a Big 12, a favorite NCAA tournament place to go eat over in Denver? Is there a place you're going to go to that's an old go-to from the good old days over in Denver?
Man, I can't really think of one off the top of my head. I was there when Jimmer made the Sweet 16 run there when they beat Wofford and Gonzaga, and I don't know. One of the things you guys know about the NCAA tournament and even the Big 12 tournaments, they feed the media pretty well. There's almost 3 meals a day there. That's brought. So if you don't want to damage the expense report too much, you eat at the media buffet.
There you go. That's a good point. I forget about that.
Okay, I want to ask, since we were talking about that, I want to follow up with part of going into the Big 12 was there's going to be new teams you're playing and new destinations that BYU hadn't gone to on a regular basis. Now that we're 2 years into this thing, what's been your favorite Big 12 city to visit or to go to a game at? Anything stand out?
Yeah, quite a few. I was there at Fog Allen when BYU won that game. So Lawrence is pretty cool. The whole game day atmosphere and all that was really memorable, and I thought their fans were really classy. Really, after BYU beat them, and granted, Kansas hasn't been Kansas the last 2 years, so that was pretty cool. This last year in football, playing at UCF. There was this weird thing where they launched a rocket during the third quarter. from Cape Canaveral, and you could literally see it from the press box. And
that's something you've never seen before.
Wasn't that SpaceX?
Right after Mata'ava Tase caught a touchdown pass, and then all of a sudden there's this rocket, and that just stands out as far as kind of a couple of the memorable things I've done.
That's good stuff. You've got articles coming out all week long, including one today, right? And so everybody can find you at Deseret News, DeseretNews.com. They're our distribution partner as well. So we'll expect to hear a bunch coming from you. And sounds like Media Day start Wednesday. You'll have a bunch of articles coming from the interviews and all that, and then covering the games the rest of the week, right? Which we hope goes all the way through Saturday, right?
Yeah, got it. My flight is booked to come back Sunday. So
very good.
Oh yeah, I put my trust in the Cougars, but it should be a great tournament. It should be a lot of fun. NCAA, the big dance is just fun. It's fun for fans, players, coaches, and even the media. Just the atmosphere and everything. There's nothing like it.
It's the least productive 3 weeks of the year for any workplace because everybody's watching the NCAA tournaments, especially Thursday, Friday. Production goes way down for the next couple of weeks, which I think is great. So, well, we wish you safe travels over there, Jay. We're grateful for you for coming on tonight. Always bring great insight to us. You can catch Jay at Deseret News and Deseret.com. Have fun over there.
Thanks,
and bring good luck to the Cougs.
Okay, we'll see. Last week I was 50-50.
Yeah, no, you weren't so good last week, but Houston doesn't really take, I think skill prevailed there, but this week they can use a little luck and some skill. So have fun while you're there. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for having me.
Jay Drew from the Deseret News. Always good to have Jay on with us. Always, and he's seen a lot over this. That's so fun that he was in Arizona at the McHale Center for the Jimmer game, and then for this great game just a couple weeks ago when BYU took down the Wildcats in their home building. That's pretty cool. So
thank you for watching The Wise Guys.
If you like what you're watching, you can help us out by subscribing and hitting that notification button.